The Minnesota Timberwolves might have just hit a wall hard. What looked like a promising playoff run has taken a dangerous turn. After weeks of dominant basketball, suddenly they look overwhelmed, outmatched, and one step behind. And the most alarming part, it's not because of some off night or poor shooting streak, it's because they're running into a defensive juggernaut that's exposing every single crack in their offense. If Minnesota doesn't adjust fast, this could go from a cold night to a complete collapse. Let's break down exactly why the Timberwolves are in serious trouble. It all starts with OKC's defense. Game 1 wasn't just a loss for the Wolves, it was a message. A 26-point blowout that felt even more brutal if you watched closely. The Thunder didn't just win, they suffocated. Minnesota walked away with just 88 points, their lowest scoring game of the entire season. And it wasn't an accident. OKC knew exactly what they wanted to take away, and they did it to perfection. Priority number 1, no transition buckets. The Thunder were obsessed with getting back on defense, even if it meant letting mismatches happen in cross-match situations. They didn't care who ended up on who, just don't give up a driving lane. And even when Minnesota tried to exploit those cross-matches, OKC's personnel made that basically impossible. You'd see Anthony Edwards bring the ball up just to immediately run into J-Dub, or Caruso, or Dort. Every possession felt like trying to escape a maze with the walls closing in. Take Cassane Wallace, for example. He wasn't just good, he was relentless. Picking up full court, stopping early offense before it even started, contesting every inch of space Ant tried to gain. When Minnesota ran early ball screens to get Cason off the ball, OKC simply switched or hedged, no panic, no confusion. It's like they've practiced every possible scenario 1,000 times. That's how locked in they are. And it worked. The Timberwolves, who thrive on rhythm and attacking early, were completely shut down in transition. According to NBA.com, they scored 0 fast break points in Game 1. 0. That's not just rare, that's historic. So instead of pushing the pace, they were forced into a half-court slog against arguably the most versatile set defense in the league. In the half-court, OKC's strategy was crystal clear. Stay connected at the point of attack and flood the gaps with help. If the ball swung to the corner, J-Dub was there to load up. If someone drove baseline, Caruso was already sliding into position. At no point did Minnesota look comfortable. It wasn't just Edwards who was struggling either. Julius Randle found himself staring down elite defenders possession after possession. Even when he tried to post up, Dort would fight for position, pull the chair, or lead him into a help trap. And here's the real problem. The Wolves can't find a mismatch. Every time they thought they got one, OKC would just counter. When they tried to screen for Ant to get him matched up with Isaiah Joe, the Thunder wouldn't switch. Joe would hedge hard, the primary defender would recover, and Ant would either have to take a contested shot or give the ball up entirely. Even when Minnesota flipped the play and used Ant as a screener to force switches, OKC responded with late doubles and tight rotations that cut off passing lanes and denied open shots. The Thunder's defense is basically a shapeshifter. If you try to isolate a wing, you get an elite individual defender. If you attack the bigs, they'll sit in drop or switch, depending on the matchup. If you think you're pulling Chet Holmgren out of the paint, good luck. He's either switching and staying in front, or playing drop and using that wingspan to erase driving lanes. There's no easy option. Every path is guarded. Now let's talk about Chet. He's not just a shot blocker. He's an anchor. If he's in drop, he's buying time for the guards to recover. If he's switching, he's using his agility and reach to stay attached to wings. And when he's off the ball, he's lurking, waiting for you to make a mistake so he can rotate over and shut it down. On multiple possessions, you'd see Ant or Randle try to get deep into the paint, only to realize they were surrounded, low man rotating, Chet stepping up, help defenders closing the gaps. It's claustrophobic basketball, and OKC wants it that way. Even when Minnesota tried to change the matchup by involving Ihart instead of Chet, the Thunder kept adjusting. Sometimes they'd hedge, other times they'd switch. Either way, the result was the same. Ant was never comfortable. The moment he thought he had a clean look, Someone was in his face. Someone was on his hip. Someone was crashing the lane. Let's not forget about the help defense either. OKC is never just defending. You one-on-one. Every time a Wolves player put the ball on the floor, there were hands digging in, feet sliding over, bodies crashing the paint. If Randall turned his head for 1 second in the high post, here came a trap from the blind side. If Ant paused at the top of the key, he'd look up and realize 5 Thunder players had already shifted over by a pass or two. That kind of pressure wears you down. By the end of the game, the numbers told the story. Ant shot 5 of 13 with more turnovers than assists. Randall, despite his 28 points, needed some incredible shot making to get there. He shot just 4 of 7 inside the arc, had 1 assist, and 5 turnovers. Most of his threes came early, before OKC really locked in. And when it came to attacking the rim, the Wolves took just 12 shots at the basket the entire game. They ended up with 20 points in the paint and a franchise record 51 three-point attempts. That's not balance, that's desperation. And while yes, some of those threes were open looks that just didn't fall, you have to understand the bigger picture. OKC is dictating how the Wolves play. They're steering the offense into jump shots, baiting them into threes, and taking away the physical, inside-first identity that made them so dangerous in earlier rounds. But here's the worst part for Minnesota. OKC isn't even doing anything crazy. They're not gambling, they're just executing on every level. Ball pressure, screen navigation, rotations, help timing, it's all clean, fast, and under control. It's terrifying how disciplined this team is. And that's why the Timberwolves are in serious trouble. So, where does Minnesota go from here? How do you solve a defense that seems to have an answer for everything? That's the puzzle facing Chris Finch and his staff right now. Because make no mistake, this isn't a matter of just playing harder or hitting more shots. This is about structure. And if the Wolves don't restructure their offense fast, this series could spiral out of control. Let's start with the most obvious point they need to create easier buckets. Like we said, 0 fast break points is a death sentence against a defense like this. The only way to beat OKC's set defense is to not let them set it. That means crashing the defensive glass, forcing turnovers, and pushing the pace at every opportunity. Even if that means risking a few bad possessions, it's better than trying to grind out 48 minutes against a defense that thrives in the half court. The problem? OKC doesn't turn the ball over much, and they rebound by committee. So even generating transition looks is easier said than done. And that's where Minnesota's offense needs to evolve, not by running faster, but by thinking smarter. Take Anthony Edwards, for example. He's been the Wolves' offensive engine all postseason. But in Game 1, OKC made him look human. Every time he touched the ball, there was pressure. On ball, off ball, doesn't matter. The Thunder were glued to him. So how do you unlock him? You change how he gets the ball. Instead of running high pick and rolls where OKC can just drop, switch, or hedge with ease, Minnesota needs to use Ant more as an off-ball weapon. Run him off staggered screens, get him curling into open space, let him attack on the move before the defense is fully set. The more you make the Thunder chase him, the harder it becomes for their help to rotate cleanly. If he's catching the ball with a head of steam, suddenly those help rotations aren't arriving on time, and that's when Ant can start living at the rim again. Now let's talk about Julius Randle. His post-ups have been a cornerstone of Minnesota's offense in prior rounds. But OKC clearly came into this series ready to dismantle that option. They're fronting him, swiping at the ball, sending surprise doubles the moment he turns his back. And most importantly, they're not giving him deep position. Every touch is 15 to 18 feet out, where he's forced to settle for fadeaways or over-dribble into traffic. So, what's the adjustment? It starts with getting Randle touches earlier in the shot clock, before the Thunder defense has a chance to load up. That might mean running drag screens in transition to get him moving downhill, or using inverted pick and rolls where he's the ball handler and a guard screens for him, forcing OKC's smaller defenders into awkward decisions. But honestly, even those adjustments might not be enough if Randle doesn't speed up his reads. OKC is too disciplined to give him multiple seconds to map out the floor. Every hesitation gives the defense a window to swarm. So if he's going to make an impact, it has to be with quick decisions: drive, pass, or shoot. No dancing, no overthinking. Then there's the spacing. In Game 1, the Thunder loaded the strong side so aggressively that it felt like every drive was going straight into a crowd. That's because the Wolves weren't punishing the help. When Reed or Gobert sat in the dunker spot, it just gave Chet or iHeart license to rotate freely without any real consequence. And when they stood on the perimeter, they weren't a threat. Minnesota needs to rethink how they use their non-shooters. If Reed's not getting post-up touches, and he shouldn't, then he has to become a floor spacer, not just standing in the corner, but actively relocating to pull defenders out of the paint. Use ghost screens, short rolls, even decoy pin downs. Anything that prevents OKC's bigs from just sitting in the paint and playing free safety. They could also look at bringing in more small ball lineups, where they surround Ant and Randall with shooters and slashers. That might mean fewer minutes for Gobert or Reed, and more for someone like Kyle Anderson, or even Naz Reid as a stretch. 5. It's risky. You lose rim protection and rebounding, but it could be the only way to stretch out OKC's help and create some driving lanes. But again, this all comes with a huge caveat. You can draw up the most creative game plan in the world, but if your players aren't executing it with confidence and precision, it won't matter. And that brings us to the mental side of this series. OKC is in their heads. You can see it in the turnovers, the hesitation, the second guessing. Every possession feels like a battle for oxygen. And as the game drags on, the Wolves look more and more rattled. That's what a defense like this does. It's not just about the physical stops. It's about slowly convincing you that nothing is going to work, that every option is covered, that every idea is going to fail. And let's be real, this isn't just one game. It's the culmination of what OKC has been building all year. Their defense isn't some hot streak or a game plan they cooked up last minute. It's a system. It's a culture. It's 5 players locked into one brain. And when it clicks, it doesn't just shut you down, it demoralizes you. The Timberwolves now find themselves in a position where every possession feels like a riddle, where every adjustment has to be perfect, where every shot has to matter. That's a terrifying place to be in a playoff series, especially when the team on the other side is only getting sharper, faster, and more confident with each passing game. So yes, Minnesota has options. They can tweak, adjust, and strategize, but none of it will matter unless they also meet the moment with toughness, urgency, and execution. Because the Thunder aren't going to make this easy. In fact, they're going to make it harder. If the Wolves can't crack the code, this series might end quicker than anyone expected. The clock is ticking, and the Timberwolves are in serious trouble. Here's the part that should truly scare Minnesota. This wasn't Oklahoma City's best game. Think about that for a second. They won by 26 points, held one of the most dynamic offenses in the league to just 88, and yet there's still room for them to get better. That's what makes this team such a nightmare. You fix one problem, and suddenly another one opens up. For example, OKC didn't even shoot that well. Their three-point shooting was just average by their standards. They had a few cold spells. They turned the ball over more than usual. And outside of a couple hot stretches, they didn't completely torch the Wolves with scoring. What does that tell you? That this game was never about outscoring Minnesota. It was about breaking them. It's that mental warfare again. The Thunder don't need to win shootouts. They're perfectly comfortable winning with grit, with structure, with discipline. They're not chasing highlight plays. They're chasing control. And in Game 1, they controlled everything. Look at how they rotate, how every closeout is timed, how every switch is seamless. The second you think you've got a mismatch, the help slides in. You try to isolate, and suddenly there's a trap. You try to reset, and there's someone pressuring the ball 30 feet from the rim. There's no breathing room, no rhythm, no momentum. And while Minnesota is scrambling to figure out what's going wrong, OKC is calmly dictating every detail of the game. That calm? It comes from trust. Trust in each other. Trust in the game plan. Trust that every player will be in the right spot at the right time. This is a team that plays like they've already been to the Final Seven, though they haven't. And that brings us to the real core of the issue. This Thunder team isn't just good. They're ahead of schedule. They're young. They're fast. But more importantly, they're wise. Most teams with this kind of youth get rattled in big moments. They make emotional mistakes. They overreact. But OKC, they look unshakable, like a group that understands who they are and what it takes to win. That's not a small detail. That's the difference between a good team and a dangerous one. Because now you're talking about a team that can beat you with matchups, beat you with tempo, beat you with execution, and if they get hot from the perimeter, beat you with scoring explosions. It's a five-headed machine. If you stop one part, another activates. You shut down SGA's drives, and suddenly Chet starts cooking in pick and pops. You neutralize J-Dub, and Caruso's cutting lanes open up, and through it all, Cassine is pressuring. The point of attack, killing your spacing before you even cross half court. So now ask yourself, what does Minnesota actually do better than this team? Is it defense? Not anymore. Is it shot creation? Not if Ant and Randall are locked down. It's spacing, not with Gobert on the floor. And if it comes down to role players stepping up well, OKC might have the deepest group of role players in the playoffs right now. Joe, Kenrich, Caruso. Even iHeart is giving them huge minutes off the bench. This series isn't just about tactics anymore. It's about identity, and the Wolves are in danger of losing theirs. In previous rounds, their physicality and star power were enough to overwhelm opponents. But against OKC, that advantage is gone. Their best players are being outplayed. Their schemes are being countered. Their pace is being controlled. So what are they left with? That's the question Minnesota has to answer. Not just how to get more shots at the rim, or hit a few extra threes, but who are they when their strengths get taken away? Can they adapt? Can they evolve? Or will they crumble? Because let's be clear, OKC isn't going to back off. If anything, they're going to tighten the screws. Game 2 will come with more pressure, more aggressive switches, more strategic doubles, more mind games. And if the Wolves haven't adjusted mentally, it won't just be another loss. It'll be another domination. That's the brilliance of this Thunder team. They don't just beat you physically, they strip away your confidence, your patterns, your habits. And once they've done that, you start doubting every move, every shot, every pass. It's death by precision. And here's the kicker. OKC knows they're close. They can feel it. 3 wins from the finals. The youngest core in the league, knocking on the door of greatness. And they're not in a rush. They're not forcing anything. They're just executing quietly, confidently, completely. Meanwhile, the Timberwolves are searching for answers. That may not exist. Adjustments they may not have time to make. And if they don't find something soon, something real, they won't just lose this series. They'll get swept right out of it. That's why the Timberwolves are in serious trouble.